What's up, everybody? Um, so, no need to really give a large introduction for what I'm streaming about because it's happening, and shots were fired at President Donald Trump, and then um, it appears that there was a shooter that was killed, and then it appears that there were other people that were killed, or a person was there were people injured and killed. And I'm just thinking out loud here because that's what we do. That's how how some of us process. And so I wanted to do that. I wanted to make a few points just about what I'm seeing on social media, mainly Twitter. So I'm going to show some of this stuff. And the first thing here, I mean, this is the thing that really, this image is the one that will, I don't know, kind of stick with me. And I'll make it a little bigger here. But, that's a lot of blood. I've seen a lot of bleeding as a nurse. That is a lot of blood. And that's taken from the stands at the rally. The risers behind Trump. And to me, that's where there's a lot of intensity around the images of Trump for real reasons, for honest reasons. I also wanted to just talk about how my first reaction to all of this was fake news. That was my first reaction, was this is fake. Because coming from the president who spouted fake news all the time, that was, and thinking about deep fakes and thinking about the dramatization of politics in our current state of the culture, that was my honest first reaction, was this is dramatized or something. But, that's why I think that this image is the one that hit home. Like I said, there were a lot of dramatic images of Trump, but this is the one that is, it's hard to deal with. So let's see here. This statement was true, rings true to me. Robert Sterling. I don't know who these people are. It's just in my Twitter feed. In case those of you on the left are still confused, words aren't political violence. Silence isn't political violence. This is political violence. This is what an attack on democracy looks like, regardless of party. We can't go down this road. Pretty good tweet. And this image here is one that also, I don't know if the audio's coming through on it or not, but here, that's from the stands. And then right after this image right here of this young man, that's humanity. That's shock. There's blood on the guy standing up there. There's blood on that lady's hip. She's being escorted out. These are the images that are about the humanity of the situation that's unfolding right now. this isn't, I'm not trying to make political statements. I'm just trying to show the images and the statements that say something to me about the humanity of the situation. The blood here from that injury that we just saw, this statement about what is real political violence. And then this is news. Elon Musk making a statement here. I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery was his first response. That's a pretty big statement, which I doubt anybody was really clueless about that. But, you know, if you, the powerful global elite, care about R's and D's, you're nuts. Yeah. So, and then, you know, the other thing is like this idea of fake news and deep fakes and everything that is happening in the culture, like that's changing in our culture. You know, oh, the news sources, we need them to be verified so that we know what's really happening when, because of social media. And this is the same thing, like that when you go back 4 years to COVID and everything that was happening, we have the ability to make judgments for ourselves, and whether or not they're completely informed or not, that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the news is reporting this live, and then people are seeing it happen live, and then everyone's seeing the same thing everywhere all at once. It's so when you see the news, you know, and I think this is important because, okay, you go from a Richard Simmons here to the next post being about Donald Trump 2 hours ago, from CNN. Donald Trump's rushed off stage by Secret Service during a campaign rally, you know, and kind of the big critique that I saw rolling out was that they didn't acknowledge that it was an assassination attempt initially. And then an hour later, the Secret Service says Trump is safe. Spokesperson confirms that he is fine, recovering from a shooting in the rally. And then it goes on to say at least one attendee and the gunman dead after the shooting. And then it goes on, shooting at former President Trump rally is being investigated. So, and that was 40 minutes ago. And so you have these, that was the, and so then you can juxtapose that with Fox's. You go from Tiger Woods to breaking news. Major succeed. They didn't say the first thing they did that they tweeted wasn't about an assassination attempt either. It just says major security incident breaks out at Trump rally in Pennsylvania. And then possible gunfire breaks out at Trump rally. And then defiant Trump rushed off stage. After major security incident breaks out. And then there's video footage confirms that Trump is safe after the former president was rushed off after reports of possible gunshots. So I just wanted to say, because I saw a lot of the CNN thing, that everybody was kind of skittish on what they wanted to say initially, left and right there on those things. And then, you know, I follow these guys sometimes. I haven't a lot recently, and what's interesting about what Breaking Points did is that they just started retweeting stuff. They weren't making like official statements. They kind of just start posting things. They did this, you know, that was this is the thing that people were getting mad at. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls. I mean, I didn't see that I wasn't looking at their website, but just their Twitter. And, you know, there's a lot of, they're just retweeting now, retweeting all the same stuff. So, again, there's the big images of Trump and there's the news, but to me, these are the images of the humanity. These are the things about, you know, these are people. They're your neighbors. They're not politically powerful people. They are people trying to make sense of the world. And this young man here, you know, like this young man is just, he's just there, and you can. He's distraught. He's in a state of distress. So that to me is the everything else that's going to ramp up. I mean, obviously this is going to do things in our world, in the political zeitgeists and everything that's going on. This is going to change things for this election. And I mean, let's just be real. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go full truther, full Alex Jones, full, left wing, soft talk this whole thing. Like, that's not what I'm there. You'll find that everywhere. You'll find that wherever you want to find it. I had to tell him, I had to decide the way I looked at it. So I have 3 kids, and I'm like, well, how am I going to, me and my wife are both like, got our ear pods in, listening to our news sources on our phones. And I'm sitting here thinking 10 years ago, we would have had the TV on, and our kids, we would be sitting there watching it, and our kids would be, in and out. So I was like, I guess I need to tell my kids. Instead of, us watching it, we were kind of just paying attention on our devices. And this happened, though. This is a big deal. And that was kind of I had to be like, oh, I think I need to tell them about this historical event. They're not probably going to, I'm sure that my 14-year-old would have gotten a text about it, but my 10-year-old wouldn't have really. But if 10 years ago, we would have been sitting in front of the TV watching the news cycle, and, that's not the case. So I wanted to open this up to TLC people. That's my news report. If you're out there and you want to, think out loud, I'm not really, I don't want a political session, but just if this is something that that's upsetting and you want to talk to somebody, and we can do that. And so I'm opening it up to people. But this guy, this guy helped carry somebody's bloody body off the stage. And then, I actually didn't see this. I didn't post the story, but there was a ER doctor that did CPR on a person. I don't know if, I guess maybe there was that person in the stands. I don't know what the position was, but the ER doctor, he realized it was probably like a lost cause, but he sat there, he said, and he's in a state of shock. I was watching him, and he was like, I was the only one that did it. And so, that's some of what's going on. So if you want to hop in and, if you're in the corner, people, or if you're not, you're just stumbled onto this thing, I've got a link in the comments. You can come in, we can talk, we can process, we can think out loud about this intense event, cultural event. And, that's why I got on here, to see if anyone wanted to be virtually not alone, as we say around these here parts. And let's see some of the comments here. Let's see. The zeitgeist respects the propaganda. This was so unnecessary that my brain can't compute. I mean, why? It's hard enough to keep track of everything right now. Why this tangent? Oh God, why? I don't know if you're talking to me, Jan, but shooter, well, there's that. Branch. Let's see. So, William Branch is one of our elder statesmen here hanging out. Governor Wallace. Hey, Matt. Hey, man. What's going on?
Good night.
What's going on? Hold on. I don't know if I can hear you real well. Let me check my settings. Change that. You hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Back at it.
I got
What's up?
laundry.
How are you feeling, dude?
I've been going through some stuff this past month, so in a very twisted, weird construal, it's kind of just regrounded me a little bit. Um, I will say this, not to be this guy, but this can also be a moment to realize the political liberation. That's my journey. Little woke leftist kid like in the culture. Went all the way down the rabbit hole, had to come back out, piece things together, went all the way to the far right, fell off the end of the far right as all I care about is my family and God. So it just happened to be on my screen when it all went down. I was on a live stream with another TLC character, Mark. Um, but yeah, so just yeah, it should set everybody back on their heels. I think is a simple image.
Like a reality check?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Someone
let's go.
died.
That's the news. Yeah. That's the reality. Like, I mean, and that's not, I mean, it is a massive political deal in politics, but like, I'm just gonna like,
No,
like,
I think you're doing a very TLC exemplification here because you're covering what's going on, but we're remembering there's humans. This is not. I mean, and I can even I'll refute whoever wants to politically debate. This is not a political. The the events of today go beyond a political event, in my opinion. It's just a
yeah.
very very sad, confused, ignorant, evil way.
And this is Branch. Yes, so I'm 39, and um I guess I think Reagan was shot at a year before I was born. Maybe it was 84.
I love you, William. Doesn't do much for me. To so we should be
Hold
expecting
on.
more
Yeah,
barbaric.
I'm just trying to answer, like, I'm trying to give attention to the question, not try to argue with him, I guess. Like, so the thing I want to just say is, like, to his point, in history, like, everything did happen before I was born. Like, anytime that this is like Reagan, like I said, I think Reagan, I could be wrong. Does anyone have the date on the Reagan attempt? But like, the routine, I mean, here's what I'll say. Whenever the shooting happened in France, when was this? 15, 14? When was the nightclub shooting in France? You're muted. I didn't mute you.
I'm horrible on a lot of those current event dates. Yeah. I'm probably the worst guy for that.
Says Matthew's got a little bit of an echo. Let me see what we got on his audio here. I'll look at. Got echo cancellation. I'll adjust his mic volume, see if that helps. So when that happened, I kind of had a numb feeling, kind of like it seems like Williams kind of like, that's how I felt whenever that happened, because there was a lot of all the news that had been around the violence, like, just for lack of a better term, like the Black Lives Matter stuff that was going on. Like, there was this cycle of violence during that time, that when that happened, I didn't feel a lot. But like the situation I'm in, like having to like unpack this news to my kids, because they, like I was saying earlier, I would have been in front of me and my wife would have been in front of a TV to talk about this. But and your kids would be like walking around and the parents are watching the news, like, but that's not how it happened. Like, I'm like texting my wife because I'm upstairs, and I was like, hey, there was an assassination attempt on Trump. And she's like, yeah, I was just listening on Instagram, and I'm like scrolling Twitter, and And it's like, so we're like listening in to news, but our kids, are just, but this is kind of thing, like a different time in a different world, like we would have been sitting in front of the TV watching the news cycle, but instead, we had to figure out, well, okay, so how are we going to talk about this? Um, so
Dinner table.
yeah, and that's what we did. We prayed at the dinner table because it was dinner time roughly. And yeah, it hit me, man. It
That
hit
was
me.
the central ritual around all the complexities and catastrophes of my childhood. Dinner table.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, certainly. Certainly. If there was a in a large enough conflict between siblings or something, certainly there would have been an addressing outside of it, but there probably would have been a kind of a reconciliation, kind of final word, an acknowledgement type of thing. Um, how else would I say? Just bigger news in the family, family, maybe a death in the family or something like that. Could be just bro, and that it's also why me and you hit on this a lot. So, but it's also why that central ritual of the family dinner is so important.
You all right?
Yeah, I thought maybe I had the echo, but it's not my fault. I'm not sure what's going on, gentlemen, ladies.
Um, yeah. Here's so I'm gonna go with here's with let's see. So William Branch, he said here, I was within. I know within 1 foot of where I was when JFK was killed. Watched Lee Harvey Oswald live on evening television. So yeah, like you know, the thing about this branch for every generation, it's only as bad as it's ever been as bad for you. Like that. It's a kind of a relative experience of, and I think that the thing, even whenever I've had seasons where I was more, like I was explaining, I was more callous to these kinds of things. I think what changed for me in this again was like taking the focus off the political figure and the political situation and looking for the stories that were the human stories in this, because sometimes the political extrapolation, it like supersedes like humanity or something. And but the thing that, like, I mean, I have those same feelings about 9/11, like you're talking about, William. But even like when you think about the greatest generation, when you think about, I don't know if it's uh was 70 million people that died in the Great War, in World War II. And and that, and then for those survivors to watch, say, the violence of the civil rights, I'm sure that, and they call them the silent generation, like those things didn't hit. They just probably went back to their garage and worked on their car, or something, because like the civil rights, but William, I think you're probably around that age when that was all hitting, really hard. And so you're saying that was before your time, but um yeah, that's the kind of thing, these relative experiences that we have. The worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, regardless. Um, and there are tragedies that do scale up of intensity, um, that it's hard to relate to. But at the same time, if something terrible happens to you, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And so when these things happen culturally, they are on a relative scale, but um, yeah.
Well, and I want to temper what my comment to William now is, because I understand his sentiment is that that these things are much more messy and often more violent. I guess where my intuition is or what I was trying to articulate with that kind of pushback is that yeah, I mean that's it's not the ideal we're aiming for, right? That's not what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be progressing. We're supposed to be we're supposed to be a civilized you know uh, place of process, place of law. So I
Yeah,
think I can meet William in the middle there.
and I think like I said on here, like I'm not going to be like the truther guy. I'm not going to be the, Alex Jones said so, and like all the things like that's but there was a part of me from the old 2020 days, from the 2016 days that was that I could feel the intensity, and that's why I started with um these being kind of the images, because this to me tampered all of the politics, because it's hard to kind of see in this picture, but there's a pool of blood from a person that died in this situation, that was killed. This person was murdered, like um thought they were attending something that they believed in. And then I want to make this post about, again, relative scales of violence, that um this is violence, like this is political violence, that's real. um and then in this picture of this young man, like he tried to help, like get the person off, he comes in, he sits back down, he just doesn't know what to do with himself. And this, and you can see here, like the guy that come up next to him, like it's hard to tell, but you can't see it because it zooms out, but there's blood on this guy's shoulder up here, and um what are those people, this group of people, like what are they dealing with right now? They're dealing with something real, something that's not just like, that's what transcends the politics right there, is whatever is going on for those regular American folks that you might disagree with or might agree with. uh doesn't matter. Like, these were your neighbors, these are our neighbors, these are regular old Pennsylvania folk. I mean, that's who this is. And you know there's American flag back there, whether you agree with any of the platform or the people that were talking on it. They're surrounded by an American flag, and that is part of our identity. It's not our whole identity, it's not the foundation of our identity, but it is part of our identity. It's what, I mean, and who knows. So let's see what Afriel said. The thing I'm afraid of is this spawning violent fights. Yeah, I don't want it to get worse. I have faith things work out in the end, but this doesn't mean they don't get worse. Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. Like, this is things getting worse.
Yeah, and I would hopefully offer some words of encouragement. I don't think that anything spirals from this. I don't think that's the nature of this. I think if excuse me, I don't think any more explicit violent attacks spiral from this. My intuition, that's my intuition. I think if it's, I mean, I don't want to go on the counterfactual, but I think yeah, I think this turns up all the temperatures for sure, and the pressures and so
Yeah, it
hopefully.
does. I'm going to drop the link back in. Not a whole lot of people in the comments, but there's definitely people out there watching. If you want to come in, and then let me know if there's something else that seems to evolve. We can look it up. Let's see, Afriel. As they seen as regular old Pennsylvania floor, are they evil fat? Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's not really where I'm going with this. Like, Afriel, like that's actually, that's taking that part about the humanity right there, and then it's like lowering it then down to the, I just, that's not what I want. I don't want to focus on that. I'm not saying that it's not that's not real, and that's not happening, and that's not all over. You can get that anywhere on Twitter. It's there for you.
And I just lived it in this moment. I just exemplified it. I had not thought of that. I had not thought, and I don't want to think about double the double twisting of the psyop narrative. It's like I don't want to think about that right now. So yeah.
Yeah. That's I think the powers that be want both sides to think that way.
That was my earlier comment, was if you think that the most powerful entities, these global elites, these people that have no, all they care about is money, power, and how they can keep that money and power and influence. If you think that they have some kind of red, blue, left, right, RD, Republican, Dim loyalties, I think you're sadly mistaken.
Well, I mean, I don't want to not to be, I don't want it to be patronizing towards him at all, because I think these are the real feelings that do come out. Like, but that's just not, that's not what,
You're right. You're right.
that's not what I see when I look, when they carry this body off the stage. All right. Like, we'll pull this back up. When they carry this person's body off the stage, I don't see a psyop. Like, listen, I've been in situations where I've carried dead bodies. I've revived dead bodies. I've seen dead bodies go. I've helped put dead bodies off the floor onto the ground, onto a bed before. All right, dude, we're bringing you on, buddy. Here he comes. What you got, brother?
So I just wanted to clarify too that that's not what I believe. That's just the preliminary narratives that I'm studying, and it's
Yeah. I understood that.
Okay.
My point was, I think I was just trying to reiterate, Christian, is like, even starting to frame that stuff. I think this is kind of all right. Now I can get into my little thing. This is kind of one of the symptoms of this left brain, just a neurotic culture, is we don't even get to have the breath. We don't even get to have someone just was killed. Someone is, it's already, and I did it. I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I texted Christian. I said, probably probably kayfabe. Who knows? Did anybody, because I didn't have the detail, so. Anyways, I'm just as bad as anybody else, but I'm also trying to encourage.
That makes me emotional to think about, because it's like I told my wife, my first gut was fake news. Like, regardless, like, oh, Trump's wants this to happen, and I'm not even like liberal, but it's like, that was my gut, and I don't want that to be my gut reaction. Like, I don't want that to be my lived, like, how I process the world. And so that's what I'm saying. Is like, I went to focus on not the rah images, but like the political. Those are political images. These are news. This is news story. Those are political images, and
it's the whole hermeneutics of suspicion, right?
Yeah.
But I don't. We've pulled back the curtain. Like, the reality is that there are false flags. There are things like that, and part of the reality is that Trump is going to benefit optically from this.
100%.
And we're using the hermeneutics of beauty on the things that we should be using the hermeneutics of suspicion on, and we're using the hermeneutics of suspicion on the things that we should. Yes.
Yeah, and that's and so, like, I think, like, I love that we're all three on here saying, like, we know what our gut response, we know what we've been conditioned for, and I'm fucking tired of it. Like, I don't want to live that way. And
especially
I'll just, my one little bit of encouragement is, I did have that perceptual experience, but I'm trying to tell you, from the journey I've been, the emotional, did I give my heart to? I did not. I don't. Sadly, as far as the political narratives, the political framings of this, I care about the humans that are affected, were traumatized, killed. I care about that. The political narratives, I will not be bandied about and manipulated by these large, powerful, trillion-dollar, billion-dollar corporations in the way they can frame and even set up narratives.
That's why, like, just scrolling through Twitter, like, things that are happening, people that are videoing certain stuff, like, I was looking for a few things that hit me, like, as a human, more than they were hitting me politically. And like, and you can take conspiracy as far down as you want it. I'm gonna make a choice not to. Afriel, we were having this conversation on Discord. It's like, I've done that, and it doesn't lead to peace. Like, and not that I don't it's not a willful ignorance. It's like, it's a willful attention. It's a willful attention of where, and the attention. My question was, when I saw it, when it happened, I was like, did somebody did somebody get shot? Because I can't imagine that those 5 shots didn't just how could they not have gone into that thing? And so that's what I was waiting on, to be like, did something happen? And so yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and I'll just to try and maybe defend it a little bit. And like I said, again, my reaction was for the humans. I'm so far out of the political game. I tell all of my family members, don't watch news. It just happened to be on, left on the live TV, and it just happened to be on when I was doing a live stream with another TLC guy. But I'll say is there is a liberation that you can find through a proper political understanding, and that doesn't have to discount or diminish the compassion and attention I'm going to give the human element of this. But I will not fuel and I will not give any attention in my soul. Let's just be very TLC. I won't give my soul these political narratives, and I think it's wise to unplug from this stuff, because it's so convoluted, it's so upside down, it's so, we have no idea where the narratives are coming from.
Well, and I think a lot of it too is designed to take away energy that could actually be used for good, productive things too. Like, it's, if I can get you angry about who the presidential candidate is, that's all the less time and attention that you have devoted to, I don't know, there's a particularly corrupt parking enforcement person who's in your town who probably should be dealt with, or something like something super menial but local and important.
Yeah, and
but because
yeah.
Right, but because all of your time and attention is being taken up by this much bigger than yourself thing.
And this, like, what's the story a week from now, a month from now, is this family, like, somebody died, or maybe multiple people died, and several people are injured. And this isn't, at this point, it moves past a political story for them. And it turns into, like, is this person's in the hospital, or this, I've got to plan a funeral. And it's just like, yeah, they're people, and they're persons.
And I think that's the right level of focus. Like, I don't know, there's some folks in TLC who I'm less of a fan of, but that doesn't mean that I don't still recognize their humanity, and doesn't mean that I don't see that they're still important contributors. Doesn't mean that they're not somebody who, like, their life is still worth living. And I think that promotion of that attitude is a big part of why this is working as well as it is, and why it's so helpful to so many people.
Yeah. The thing is, like, they're carrying somebody, like, some people could say, like, why are you this is graphic, or these are but they're carrying this, they're carrying a body off of this stage, and it's lifeless. And there's blood underneath this young man. Like, but that's not going to be the story.
Several loud popping noises heard at Trump rally.
Yeah, that's the story. And regardless, there's that one, and then there's the icon. There's now there's the icon of Trump, the images of him.
Hey, Frill, did you really read that article title already, or a post title? Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Twitter.
Sorry, Christian. I didn't mean to.
No, it's all right.
No, I'm not making that one up.
I did cover that at the first of this stream, where I went through.
It didn't land for me that was an actual popping.
Yeah. Oh,
that's where we're at.
Well, if you listen to it, it does sound like pop. I heard a better recording it through these.
Chris, come on, man.
No. Here's the thing: when people heard it, they were like, it sounded like firecrackers. But I heard a better recording through these headphones, and the people that were there, it was the people that were there. Mm-hmm. It sounded like firecrackers, and a lot of people say that when you hear gunshots from a distance, and especially at rapid, when it's done rapidly.
Well,
when I
and,
heard
and
there
for
was
as many guns we have, everybody's not familiar with guns. So
yeah, but when I heard there was another like home camera, like a phone camera, and what it picked up through these headphones, I could hear more concussive sound. But yeah, but if you're just listening on your phone, like your phone screen, like a lot of people are with your ear pods or something, like it's not going to capture the full range of the sound that actually was there. But yeah, this anyways, man, like I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
The article titling it just on Matthew's kind of vein there of like the news is intentionally making people crazy, like,
and people are
gotta
making
turn
people
it
crazy.
off. Yeah.
And, yeah, and that was the thing. That's why I went over to both the. I think the screenshot that people are passing around on Twitter from CNN may be from their website, but I actually went to both Fox and I went to CNN's Twitter feed, and I looked at both of them. And they kind of both did the same thing. They didn't. Their first reaction wasn't this was an assassination attempt, because if they were doing breaking news, they wanted to make Then it went like they both kind of scaled up within every 30 minutes to something that in which
I guess maybe I'm just so far past cynical on this stuff. It's just the corporate news regimes moved and operated similarly, Christian. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like,
well, but yes, I agree with you. But what I'm trying to say is that what's making people crazy is the meme of CNN being passed around, but they actually Fox and CNN both tracked it the same way.
I guess I'm just in a very weird spot because of my political views, because my point is stop watching corporate news. Like I pleaded with my family.
They weren't the first place I went. It was just
touche. Christian, I'm not like I'm not sitting here poking at you. This is generalized statements, and I've do lived experience. I've begged my family for probably a year and a half straight until I just had to give up. I had to give up. I just said,
Yeah. Just as a update, yeah, CNN does have Trump shooting being investigated as attempted assassination as their main page headline. So,
yeah, their lead. Yeah, and that's what I said. From the big one, like breaking points they were just retweeting and they were just going, because they're not maybe held to a different, whatever the journalistic standard is of we've got, we want to make sure we have the facts or whatever. I'm not trying to defend anything. I'm just saying that they both rolled it out in the same way and they're both at the same conclusion right now. But the point of what makes us crazy is a meme that then goes out that then psychologically makes us crazy about, look what CNN did. And then that's all what everyone retweets, and that's what gets the clicks, and that's what the influencers are using. And
the culture war discourse spirals.
Yeah, and that's what people are upset about is what CNN's reporting, not about the people, the persons that were killed. And
do we know if it was more than one? Do we have?
I don't know. I think from all I know is that there's injury, and then that I think there has been a reported death. I mean,
we want to be somewhat careful with our.
Yeah. Two others.
We want to be serious. We want to be adults.
What'd you see, Afriel?
Two others critically injured.
Yeah. And there's blood, on the scene that would show that there was for sure a severe injury, and then at least, because they did walk off in this video, they walked off a lady at the end of it. I'll see if I can get us there. This lady, yeah, this one at the end. We got another meme alert. But this lady here, there's like blood on her, and they're helping her down. They're helping her to get down. Looks like blood on her, and it's hard to say, but they're trying to help her, and she seems injured. And here's the thing: I live in a small rural town, and in this video, these look like all the people that I see at Walmart. And you can say whatever you want about it, but these are that's what I mean by these are my neighbors, and not that I'm trying to, not a political neighbor, not a political party, but they're people. And, so that's, what is it? What is Luke's thing? What does he say? He said, it's the, the person is the nexus of all meaning or something like that. I can't remember how he says it. What's his
Yes,
tag?
the person is the nexus of all meaning. I use it as the person is the cosmic fulcrum. Another way of saying it.
But what is his thing? Like what's his thing though? Personal, not personalism, but
Personalist knowing.
Personalist knowing.
I don't know. He does a lot. He conflates a little bit of that. He also has iconic knowing. You know, it's like
like I think you could look at like the icon images of Trump. That's like an iconic knowing, and the personalist knowing is these people. You know, like, and we have other iconic.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get down into the weeds on these technical definitions.
No.
I would say this. I agree with his. I'm 1,000% agree with Luke on the human is the nexus of all. I mean, I even go as far as the cosmic fulcrum because I have a Neoplatonic, geometric image that kind of, tripartite work. That, anyways, it definitely lands, and even in my Eastern, philosophy days, this mysterious entity balancing the dichotomies, the dualities.
Y'all have any other thoughts? We got anybody over here in the
Yeah, I got a thought. April said buy stocks and memes. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. Thank
we
you.
must have seen one that was good.
God bless you for that humor. Hey, and I'm being serious. I'm being serious about humor. God bless you for that. I looked and I said, man, that's freaking great. Thank you. I could smile in this serious. I'm being as sincere as I can, brother.
Yep.
That I appreciate that comment.
Oh, I don't know. I have a tendency to make inappropriate jokes, but sometimes they land well.
Let me tell you, from someone who has been in some dark places, life will make you laugh or cry, brother. And sometimes you should cry. And I'm not saying don't ever cry, but let me tell you what: if you are underestimating the value of humor, man, I think you're missing a lot of life.
No, it's a weird thing. Like sometimes, how do we maintain a different stances and different like approaches to such serious things, especially when we're kind of disconnected from it. But even when we are connected to it, again, I've talked a lot of today about my my career. I don't have it as much, but being a nurse, like there are dark times, like when like I've been around a lot of death and some things that it's like sometimes it's a choice to choose to be intentionally caring and reverent, because otherwise there's kind of an absurdity to like that this is part of my job to wrap up this body and take it to the morgue. Like, and you're with somebody helping you do this and it's kind of like, what are we doing? And so, those are
well, and
challenge.
Can I just, the cynicism in me again, there's a lot of technological society and modernity there. This whole, third party, out into the marketplace, funeral homes, blah, blah, whatever the profession in the machine may be. I mean, you're losing, you're inserting a techne and a systemization and a dehumanization, and you're losing all of that personal artist, for the lack of a better word, artisanry and just gentle human nuance for that experience. To think that someone has to just clock in every day and deal with, the death in that regard. It's like we were not designed evolutionarily. Our biology was not designed that way, man. We're that's not that. You're only going to cause, a lot of bad symptoms from that.
So as far as I'll say this to Branch, watch out for PTSD, CB. Yeah, I think about halfway through COVID, like I kind of like checked out of some stuff. Bought a motorcycle. I quit. I was in school to get my bachelor's, to finish it. I quit on the last class. And like and then I left my job to kind of check out of the being on staff, and I've been on night shift, and I needed to change, and I went to travel nursing, and because like I think I hit some of this stuff with all that. There were some really sad situations.
Yeah, for sure. But I also want to just take that. I hate to do that, but I also want to take that and encourage a little bit to the larger. I think a lot of our society ran into that phenomenon with the 2020 stuff. A lot of people were just like, I got to unplug, remove. I got to figure. I got to investigate. It was a very much a kind of a kairotic moment, for lack of better words. I know we
So
use it a lot.
so this is me 4 years later, after, say, something like the George Floyd riots and COVID, choosing a different response to something that, made me volatile, made me angry, made me a bad husband and a bad father, because I knew the truth about the world.
And what good does that do you?
Yeah. And it lost trust and respect for how I was treating my wife, in regards to politics. And our kids were a lot younger, so there wasn't, but if this had happened then, like, I think that I would have, it would have sent me down that kind of spiral. And again, that's not because I don't have opinions about how the world works. It's not because I don't think that there are major forces involved and that parts of the truther stuff isn't true. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. And again, I think, Parlato, you did a beauty first thing, or what was the thing you did about beauty versus the truth? We're
hermeneutics of suspicion versus hermeneutics of beauty. And actually, Afriel broached the topic. I just further expounded on it.
Yeah, touch on it again, guys.
Well, I just think I exemplified it, and even as much as I can give myself props or whatever, being unplugged and just stumbling upon it, I even did it. I was, very cynical in my interpretation of these. Where's the fake news? Where's the kayfabe? Where's the kayfabe? Where's the because I even went, in a very kind of a pragmatic way of just like, it's not the right word, but just a very realistic, just like, okay, there's a shot into a crowd. Where's the because I hadn't even paid attention to find out, like, oh no, there was a body there. They are sick. So, and then just the reverse of it is, and then we take all of this suspicious, cynical, what are the powerful motives of the author, blah blah blah, interpretation on all the most profound and sacred texts of our culture and of our species. So we really just are upside down, inside out, and backwards.
Yeah, go ahead, Afriel.
Well, I wasn't so much on the hermeneutics of suspicion and beauty and the tie between those. The thing for me, more on the line of like, okay, the truth now. What is that? What do you do with it, right? And I think that that's actually part of the game, almost, that they're trying to sort of make people hopeless by letting them know, hey, this is what your situation is and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that the way to kind of judo that back again is to say, well, yes, there is something I can do about it. And yeah, I'm not going to necessarily be able to directly impact in a positive way whatever it is that I see that's going on at a higher level. But what I can do is I can start to try and find and talk to like-minded people. Yes. I can try and interact with the people in my day-to-day life in a positive way and have a good impact on them. I can try and make myself more self-sufficient in the case that something bad really happens.
And in a way, you're flipping the hermeneutics of in my construal. You're turning the hermeneutics of beauty back on them. You're saying, I will not succumb to that. I will stand and try to see the beauty in the meaning, in the good in this life, in this catastrophic circumstance.
Yep.
What's up, Chad?
What up, dudes? My brother just my wife and I were over hanging out with a couple of friends in town here, having dinner. It was really nice. We're out on the back porch there and had dinner, and we're eating cake. And then my brother texts me and he says, "Trump got shot." And I'm like, "What?" It kind of tripped me out. But listening to to what Matthew was just sharing about the hermeneutics of submission. I was thinking about that as I still think that there's this strange underlying issue, this issue in the family home called America that we haven't really wrestled deeply with, and I still think it's really very much tied to what happened in 2001. And as far as like not being able to trust institutions and things like this, I don't mean to come at too much from a truther perspective or get too conspiratorial, but just the knee-jerk reaction of not being able to trust and having the suspicion. Yeah. I think it ties to that. I mean, I think all of us on this screen here were all raised in that society.
No, I totally agree with that. There's actually a pretty profound book on it. Martin Gurry's Revolt of the Public. I guess maybe I am echoing. I apologize. I can't think. Anyways, Martin Gurry's Revolt of the Public. Basically, the internet has really, like you said, it's democratized information so much that we really can take a much more brutal and cynical look at these institutions. But again, I don't know why my intuition though is just, but that has to be a tool, and that it actually has to be kind of subordinate to the hermeneutics of beauty. And I think if you understand like the hierarchy of Western canon and stuff like that, that JP notion of all the great works of the West are traced back and have references into the Bible, that kind of thing is you want to start there from trying. I mean, let's just go broad and let's do the fractal. What is the hermeneutics of this existence? Do you want to say this existence is some cynical suffering, demiurgistic creation, or do you want to say this thing is beautiful? Thank God, this is a gift.
Yep. Well, and I think that there's room to say that there are both of those things present. That sometimes it is beautiful and sometimes it is hideous, but that the real hermeneutic there is, even when it is hideous, it has the possibility of redemption. It has the possibility of coming back into beauty again.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just want you to know that I love you all very much, and I wanted to drop on and say hello. And I'm on my last pack of smokes. I got tomorrow, and then I'm out. Wish me luck, buddies. I'm gonna.
Hey, I see you,
Chad. You can do it, Chad.
I see you, brother. I see you deep.
I'm gonna go be a husband and listen to this amazing storm going on in my house.
Yeah, I hear it.
That's beautiful.
All right, bros. Bye.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Yeah, this is we got a little support from Clara here, Chad. If you see this on, good luck, Chad.
Hey, someone throwing marks around.
We got some more here. Good luck, Chad. You can drop nicotine. Oh yeah, dude.
Parsons is coming out with marks. Is he being? Am I being an airhead here?
I don't know if I want to take it here.
Yeah, I don't know either, and I don't know.
Here's my take. I will take this. I'll say this is that I have heard from is what fire with fire is kind of the attitude I think that people are talking about. I think that's the take. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, then I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, we got another supporter here. I just dropped Nick and weed at the same time. It was tough. Good luck, John, with that as well.
Yeah, good luck, John. I'm on day 6. No marijuana.
Yeah, dudes. So, anyways, yeah, so this was happening. This is what's happening. I didn't know. I don't have quite the reach. Okay, we got another friend coming in. Here we go. What's up, RJ?
What's up, guys?
You were having some signal difficulty earlier today. I was wondering if maybe that's why you're got the profile. But yeah, how are we doing, man?
I'm hoping I can finally get my computer set up so I can have a better mic. But was really enjoying the hermeneutics of suspicion and what Matt was saying about finding some sort of aphoristic mechanism, tool, for lack of a better term in English, towards healing some of the rift. The dialogos, I think, is important part of that. The thing is that, and this is just an intuition, I don't know if forgiveness is achievable yet. So that kind of points to that. So a few steps needs to take place before we can even get to that point. So that's kind of where I'm starting at.
I'll speak to the forgiveness thing. I think forgiveness is not, forgiveness is like a journey. It's not like, I think that the word like I forgive you is not great and it's overused. It's like I am forgiving. It's like I am trying to forgive, and then in that process of in that there's like a process to that. Like something like, for me, it comes up in the Lord's Prayer when you get to that part, like forgive me as I forgive. That's when that comes up, like that, the people or the situations, and it's something that I have to work through. And it's not, I don't think it's like in a moment like, oh well, all's forgiven. But maybe, RJ, to your point, like it can be like a posture. Like I want to aim towards the ideal of forgiveness, and then maybe act as if I do before I believe that I have, or something,
Right. And part of what I'm gesturing at is, before you agree or choose not to hold something against somebody else
Yeah.
or over somebody else, you have to be able to be in the same vicinity or room. And like, if violence is occurring, which it clearly is occurring, I don't think anybody's going to debate about that anymore. If violence is occurring, then the conversation has stopped. So I think we actually may need to back up a few steps.
What do you?
Yeah, I agree with that. Without dialogue, we resort to violence. This might not be relevant. And I'm Mr. Biblically illiterate, so I can't believe I'm going to do this. But it stuck out is, forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. He's being crucified. I think he says that right before the one that screws with me the most is, my God, what have you forsaken me? Again, don't quote me on this stuff. I'm very illiterate on it. But my point is, there's an existential stance that can be taken to say, whatever happens to this world, I will forgive them. Even the craziest, worst sins, even Jesus on that moment, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. I will wear all their sins, all the betrayal, all the blood, all the humiliation that they've poured onto me. I will wear it right now, arms open. And in that stance, there's an embodied forgiveness of all, right? I mean, that's Christ, right? So, I don't know if that landed, fellas.
No, it landed very much, Matt. I'm involved in a couple of different kinds of interfaith dialogue. And while I don't necessarily want to shift that into that faith lexicon, people get hung up on later parts of the story or certain parts of the story, and it obscures other parts of the story because, give them Barabbas can very much obscure they know not what they do. And the final words said on the cross being hyperlinked to certain Psalms is also obscure. I don't know if that rings any bells for CBACs.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of
what I meant by backing up a few steps.
My God, that isn't that the beginning of the Psalm, Frank? Am I incorrect?
No, I know
there's confusion around, or not confusion. There's multiple interpretations around Eloi.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's.
You mentioned the hypertext to Psalms. I was just trying to. You have to tell me this stuff like I'm like a set, like I don't know any of it. I mean, you laugh.
Let's get this, guys. We got the answer here from the source material. From the embodied
Why don't you
Uriel.
jump in, man?
I would love to talk to Jacob.
Jump on in.
So,
But it's the title of thank you, CJ. See this? This is why this is my fellowship. This is why I love you all. I love you all. Thank you so much. So there you go. It's a reference to the title of the song. There you go.
yeah.
Gee, God,
Yeah, I
thank
mean,
you so much, Jacob.
Yeah. So
So if we could turn attention back to the suspicion thing.
Okay,
Sure.
sure.
Suspicion is what in part engenders or is engendered by breakdown of dialogue. And while there's been a lot of time in different dialogues about dialogue, what is dialogue, how to enter, and how to repair is not something that I've personally been a part of, but would like to be.
yeah, I think I will say that I think that forgiveness doesn't always yield reconciliation.
I think it's the precursor to it.
If it's possible, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, we got Jacob's pushed this onto his channels up here, so people
Well, I was trying to be good and not stream on the Sabbath, but I've been sitting here losing my mind. So,
Relatable, man. Relatable.
Thank you. Thank
It
you
doesn't
so
count.
much. for
It doesn't
coming
count
on.
if you're jumping on someone else's stream.
exactly.
I already broke that rule to
must
try
be
to
it. Yeah,
discuss, language of creation, but it's a
You're
tough
welcome.
call. But I'm glad to see you're here, man.
yeah,
Did you guys see the BBC interview?
No,
that was the one where they could see they were
The
having
guy climbing up the
party.
building,
Yeah,
and they called the police, and it took minutes for them to respond. Like, if that BBC interview is legit, which I have no idea why it would not be, like, I'm sitting here losing my mind. This is Civil War shit.
and that's I do think it's avoidable, and I think dialogue is part of that.
The problem with dialogue, though, is that both parties have to want to actually come to the conversation and talk, and that's part of what I'm afraid of right now. Is that I don't know if that's actually the case.
Did you see the trending things on Twitter? Things like staged was trending, and one job he missed.
Can I go a little bit larger picture and just total political landscape? Don't get me wrong. I totally understand what you're emphasizing there, Jacob. But to April's point is there's also there has to be an agreed there has to be a larger agreed upon kind of substructure. I was in those waters, man, not too long ago, and the whole you can't platform, you can't discuss, like they're so naive. They don't know what they're messing with in a lot of instances. I think a lot of it is just blind naivety. I think there's a lot of dark forced, characters, nefarious characters as well. But the fact is there's a whole, there's a loud swath that is running half of more than half of the country's kind of political views. That is totally beyond conversation. It's you can't platform enough. You can't. There's no rational discussion. There's infinite gender. But I don't want to
get too political with it.
Chris,
Well, hang on there, Matt. I think while pointing at some of the concrete stuff is very helpful and indeed of importance, it may be helpful towards looking at this without naming things as such at times and taking advantage of some of the ambiguity so that we can look at the principle and diagnosis is great, but and to use some of your phrasing, Matt, symptomology is important, but what do we do about the wound and such as it is?
Well, and how do you?
I don't. I just want to make the point that you can find all the truther, all the conspiracy, all the stuff. there's easy access, just like you're saying, of everything that's trending right now, Jacob. Like that's easy. If you want that information, it's out there and it's gonna proliferate, and that's what's gonna get clicks.
It'll find you like a name that you
See,
didn't know.
I'm gonna do the taboo thing, and I can't believe it, but in a lot of ways I can't. That's what I'm doing right here. This is why I've given all of you guys my attention right here, is because that game has broken down. So I'm trying to build and play a new game. I think we're trying to steal the culture with a new game. We're trying to participate. Jacob has as outspoken political opinions as I've met around here. And by the way, many I agree with, and some of them I could really kind of push back on them and say, hey man, that's a little bit of an outdated, but whatever. That's not the point. The point is, and I'll even go to the other end of the spectrum, because I just did it with Mark Parker, who I know for a fact we're on different, totally different viewpoints on the mammonistic political stuff. But the fact is I want to commune. I want to have a relationship. I want to be able to see the human and relate to the human and care for the human beyond that, and to drop those identities and those that rhetoric, if that's what's needed, then I think that's supreme. And so this is where the conversations will happen. This is what I see as the value of this place.
Yep, I think Sherry's right. Telling a more beautiful story.
The thing is, like, there is no doubt the images that are being created right now, the memes, the hashtags, those, we've been down this road. It was 4 years ago. It was called COVID in the 2020 election. Like, this is the time. This is the when everyone's like, you just get ready, it's an election year, this shit's gonna hit the fan. It's happening like right now, and the question is, like, are we gonna find our brains in 2020 again? That's the real question. I don't want to. That drove me crazy. And it's not that I don't even believe that all the shit's happening. All the truther shit is happening. Like, all the bigger power plays, like, but that's not what I want my attention to be on. But I don't want to deny its reality. But I just don't want my attention to be captured by that. I want my attention and my perspective to be more aimed at the humanity of culture right now versus the politics of the culture. Not that I don't think it's going to have certain effects, but that's where I'm coming from on it.
Okay.
That sentiment is one I share as well.
But let's go ahead, Jacob. Go ahead and give your thoughts, man.
Okay, so I wrote about this on my Substack. So I came to the United States as a 7-year-old, as a refugee from Iran. And for me, that's been absolutely incredibly, like, my life has been focused on the fact that I came here and I was shocked to be living in the refuge, the asylum. I am a refugee. I am an asylee here in the United States. And my entire life has been centered around the question of how is it that here in the United States, I live in civilization, and Iran was the shithole, and I use that word advisedly, that it was. And so and I've studied this stuff deeply. Like, my bachelor's degree was in political science, my master's degree, public administration. I went to law school, and I was studying this. And for the past 20 years, I feel like a Cassandra who's been yelling at people. If you don't pay attention, like, this slow-moving car crash is going precisely where I think anybody who's actually paying attention can see. And I've been trying very hard not to be alarmist too much. There's only a couple of videos on my channel about the coming civil war, although there are a couple of videos, because I'm trying to keep my trauma from like Iran and what happened in the revolution everything else
Well,
from losing my mind. But like the president got shot, the former president and likely soon to be president got shot today.
yes.
And
Yeah, but that
and I just need people to stop, like to stop and go, hey, you know what? If we don't pay attention to the if we don't pay attention to the political state that we are in, then we're going to end up being the shithole that Iran was. And that is terrifying to me.
What I want to say to that, Jacob, is I agree with you that it's whether it could be likely or a possibility. Or I'm saying that I have accepted that to a degree. Like I'm not going to stop that train, but I can.
Why not?
okay. I want to hold on. I want to pee on all y'all's parades.
Well, I mean, but so why am I not going to stop that train? Because
Seabax, to Jacob's point, can I reframe that? One person can't stop a train, but if we all stand together, then I'm
eventually if we just put enough bodies on the track.
No,
so where do we stand together?
That's not what I'm saying at all. Like,
I know, I'm just being pithy. I'm sorry.
Although that does work as a strategy to stop the train, and it's one some people do recommend, and I don't think piling up bodies is a good strategy in any direction.
You guys are to me. You guys are sounding like the Romans who are waiting for the alarm to say the Rome has fallen. By the way, if you understand fifth generational warfare, Jacob, I don't think you have children or anything. If you understand fifth generation, we are already at a civil war, brother. We are this thing is already at a conflict. If you're at a culture war, it's because you have none. If you're wondering about your identity, it's because you have none. This thing is already it's already there. This is just a slip up of an overt violent act. The forces that are against us. Let's just be very big. The forces that are against us have been chugging along for quite some time now. I don't want to diminish the fact of like brass tacks, hot war, blood. Like, yes, but my point is war is war. Friend and enemy distinction. That is politics. Okay. That, and if you want to keep it in a civil.
Here's what I want to say. Jacob asked, why not? And I think what I mean by that, like, is, I got to where I couldn't talk to anybody because the truth is I'm a lover, not a fighter. If I'm going to be honest, Jacob, that is my disposition in the world. Okay. I'm a lover, I'm Shakespeare, whatever. However, and I got to a place, everything that happened 4 years ago made me not feel like I could really talk to anybody in my life about anything because I was so angry, or everybody was so wrong. And it's not that I don't think that I have real opinions and that I even don't agree that things are escalated and that things are at a fever pitch or all these things. Like I don't disagree with you on that. I guess that's not how I want to approach it this time. I don't want to approach it as a game to win or a war to win in a way that,
Christian,
go ahead.
This is very black and white thinking, right? And one of the greatest great gifts ever has been the Serenity Prayer. God, give me the strength to change the things that I can, the grace to accept the things that I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so, no, it's not I can't do anything or I can do everything. It's that there are things I can do, there are things I can't do, and it takes wisdom to know the difference.
Amen.
Yeah, so maybe I'm a fool.
Well, the question becomes then, how do I get more strength so I'm capable of doing more? How do I increase my wisdom so that I know when to tilt versus when to withdraw? And I think that is a really big problem because unfortunately everything is controlled by those negative forces. And so all of the advice that you're getting about how to play the game more effectively plays into whatever the like the games of control that are already established. It just makes them stronger by using those tactics. And I think that's the hard question, is like, it's not why or why not, it's how. How do you actually develop tactics that are going to be able to heal things and mend things, especially when there is so much antagonism?
Is it tactics or ways of being?
Yeah, well,
A little
I would
bit of
just say
both.
this, like, I've seen things the same way Jacob has seen them for a long time. I also don't think that, so I would just say this whole idea that the right is somehow going to be violent. They shot up a bunch of senators after he won in 2016. We did nothing. Antifa was murdering us in the streets. We did nothing. It has been proven that they had a political coup based on a phony dossier to try and stop a president from actually being able to do things. We also know, this is proven beyond a reasonable doubt by Hunter Biden's laptop, that they impeached Trump because actually he uncovered Biden's corruption in Ukraine. They stole the election in 2020, ginned up something and called it an insurrection, put people in jail. Now they've gone after Trump for all these lawfare things, and now they try to assassinate him. And there's some very obvious Secret Service failures that should be done. But here's what we can do. We don't have to respond in violence, but we got to quit saying this is a both sides kind of thing that's happening right now.
I haven't said that.
No. I'm just saying us. And so the thing is, like, I want my normie friends to finally wake up. Now's the time. You know how you stop this? You elect Trump in the will of the people in the
Landslide.
You elect him and you say, hey, let's get after the CIA, let's get after the FBI, let's get after this corruption. Let's all bind together. All we have to do is vote and speak our
fundamentally
mind.
disagree.
Right. Hey, guys,
like,
here's the thing.
political
Here's the thing.
prescriptions aside for a moment. Just political stuff aside, prescription stuff aside for a moment. I just want to say, for my part, registered independent, but also, when we're talking about stuff at this level, there's the stuff that, like, we know, and then there's the stuff that we can prove in court. And if we're going to be talking about politics, I'm just going to say, for my part, like, if it's not
everything I said is proven beyond a reasonable doubt for anybody who has who honestly will look into it. And again, the reason why I want to point this out is, it's like, we all want to shy away, like, we don't want to be political or whatever. No, we're past that. It's time for us to vote for people, and then we don't have to get violent.
All right, I that's fine. I wanted to take a moment. The reason I started this stream was because I wanted it's gonna get political. We don't have to worry about that. It's already gonna get heated. The political, everything you're saying, I agree with. That's just not what I wanted. That's not what I started this stream was to because what it's gonna, like, these thousands of these conversations are happening about the political right now. Is this ramping up? All these things happening. Yes. Like, I agree that all of that. I'm just saying that somebody died. Like that, like, yes. In our culture, like, to take the breath before everything else goes, because it's going. Like that's all I'm saying, because that's not what our culture is saying. Our culture is telling us everything else, and we're going to hear it, and it's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, to put a period on the fact that somebody died today, at this situation, in a political situation,
and our former president,
that might be
was a millimeter
one of the worst tragedies of it all. The fact that this is causing us to, as yet again, lose sight of an individual whose life was cut short, is a tragedy that will never ever end. And needs to be, and yeah, props CPACs, that's a huge part right here. And I think acknowledging that as part of the landscape identifies to us that there's part of the landscape that we need to continue to try to map out and to figure out where that first step to healing is.
We've been having people getting murdered. People literally got murdered in the streets by Antifa.
Can we have some order here?
Lance,
please let me interject.
That's
Please.
my point, Lance. That people lose.
RJ, let Afrael speak.
Thank you.
Michael Malice has a really good phrase. You don't when you take a red pill, you take one at a time. You don't take the whole bottle.
Yeah, Michael Malice also believes in anarchy. Okay, so
well,
but I get you.
I want to dig into that, but we shouldn't right now. So the thing is that, like, yes, all that I acknowledge, all that stuff is true. When you are trying to communicate with somebody who is so far removed from the conversation that they just have no idea that any of this stuff is out there, if you try and just tidal wave them with it to make your point, it's just going to alienate them. It's just going to push them away. It's going to make them not want to have the conversation. You have to wait for them to be willing to, like, when Morpheus offers the choice, he doesn't offer a bottle of blue pills or a bottle of red pills. He's offering a single blue pill and a single red pill.
And I'm hoping we have the moment now. And this is what I've been hoping. I've actually was on my Twitter timeline. Is I'm hoping finally that people are realized, like, we knew Biden was demented in 2020. I'm hoping people are finally going to check their sources and realize how poor and how they've been lied to for so long. It's so obvious. I'm hoping people finally wake up.
It takes time, though.
But see, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
I want to say this. I want to say this. Is like, I mean, probably not everybody was watching this stream when it started, and that's fine. Like, I started out by saying, like, the news, all that stuff. My first reaction to this was it's psyop. That was my first reaction, and I was just trying to make the point that it's tragedy. It's a tragic thing that's my first reaction when, like, to take a second to look at that, somebody like that, this blood was shed and that there's people in trauma over this and all that kind of stuff. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Not that I want to, that my head's in the sand, because it's not in the sand. I promise you, I all the things that you listed, and I watched the New York Post get canceled on Twitter. I said, why the fuck does nobody care? I said, why are the Twitter files brain hold? Like, I'm with you on all that stuff. So you don't have to, like, that's just not what I wanted to come and do and recognize in this moment. Like there's like a grief that needs to be observed. There's a grief that needs to be observed for what happened today, because all the shit's hitting the fan right now.
I want to hear what Mark has to say, but I would like to read a poem, if you don't mind. This is The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon their world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming, hardly are those words out, when a vast image of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it, real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to a nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come around at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born.
Well, I just wanted to comment, re-emphasize Afro's point that there's a whole other side of it. I mean, and I think one, at least a representative anomaly of some of that just entered, but there's a whole swath of America that frame it in the exact opposite way, but they don't give the little bit of grace at the end you did on, say, I'll meet them when I want to converse with them when the time is right, when it's appropriate, in the appropriate means or manner. But it's the same idea as that there is no talking, there is no conversing. Their worldview is so disconnected, it's unreachable. And my point is like, Well, let's start thinking about, I mean, again, I'm going to reiterate what I think I'm doing right here.
How do you break the spell?
Yeah, Matthias Desmet, how do we break their mass formation psychosis? Right, that has to happen. I'm hoping it's events like this that will wait. I think I started to see it a little bit, Eric Weinstein and others.
See,
There
I
are
think
people
it's
that are starting
us.
to wake up.
I think it's us too. I think if we don't realize that we're in this mass psychosis, that we have some kind of political, healthy opponent processing, trying to lean towards the good. We don't share the same
I think to
thing.
break the spell is to be able to live in the tension that all the stuff that you listed off, Lance, but to meet somebody in the conversation, like to have come to peace and recognize that, and then to meet somebody in conversation and that not be where you land, like you that not be the stance to take is the laundry list.
No, and that's why I'm here. That's why I came to this little corner, right? Because I don't talk to any of my friends or family members about this stuff, because even when I want to show them obvious things that are like provable, they won't look at it.
See, this is where I think.
So I don't have those conversations. I would just say, though, if we want to have a peaceful, which I think we can't, like, I have faith that we can get at this corruption peacefully. And all it takes is enough people to wake up. Like I am not some dyed-in-the-wool Republican. Like Lindsey Graham and Mitt Romney and all these people, they need to go too. Like, this is not a red versus blue thing. I'm a Glenn Greenwald anti-corruption thing. I'm a Russell Brand anti-corruption thing. I'm a Neil Oliver. We're these weird people that don't have the same political views. And I also think what we need in this country is a healthy liberal government and a healthy, moderate, conservative government. We stay somewhere in the middle of moderation. That's what works out best for working class people like myself, right? So I agree with you. We can't have the conversation until people have the bubble burst and realize how much they've been lied to, and the sinister corruption that we've been had. Now, I'm hoping it's slowly but slowly. The Biden thing helped some people, because we all knew that was a problem. And if your news has been telling you he was fine, you should go, oh, I shouldn't trust this news source. I'm hoping that more and more awakening is happening, and then we can have conversations.
But the culture was all about
Hold on just a second. I want to give Mark, if you had something he wanted to say.
Yeah, it turns out worse, Matthew, than we thought, huh? When we first saw it on the news, when we were chatting.
Yes, sir.
I'd say a couple things. I think Trump is now safe through the election, and because they're going to quadruple down on his security. So that take your shot at the king, make it hit is it's best hit the first time, right? Is the old adage, because you only get one shot, and they had their one shot, whoever they are. I don't know who the assassin is, would-be assassin. So that's done. I would also say the Democrats did not acquit them. This Democratic establishment has not acquitted itself well in the last week, right? In terms of gaslighting the American people and their own party, right? With Biden, basically trying to spin Biden's election or debate performance. So that's another hit. So you may get your landslide, Jacob. I won't vote for him still. It won't happen. But I won't be voting for Biden either. Jacob read a poem. Let me read something from Lincoln. At what point shall we expect the approach of danger? By what means shall we fortify against it? Shall we expect some transatlantic military giant to step the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined will, with all the treasure of the earth, our own excepted, in the military chess with a Bonaparte as its commander could not by force take a drink from the Ohio or make a track on the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. At what point then is the approach of danger to be expected? I answer, if it is ever to reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. I'd keep those words in mind. I understand feelings are hot and high, but Trump is alive, and by all appearances well. And let the system play out and try not to project and or at least cope with one's emotions in a way that we don't poison the public atmosphere any more than it already is. That's my statement.
Thanks, man. You're muted. That
One of the things that I'm really finding in TLC's values, there was this notion that I was raised on, is you don't talk religion and politics. And I think in enough aligned, valued community that makes sense. But I think if you don't talk religion and politics long enough, things spiral and fragment and fall apart. And I think that's why, in a lot of ways, not necessarily politics, though we don't. I think because also our world is just saturated in it. But guess what? We do talk. We talk religion. We talk about the most profound things. And I think that's what, because we're not, a localized community, we're this new innovative hybrid community. I think that's kind of our best start, is to just all be aligned on these healthy, dramatic dialogues about these most profound aspects of the human experience. And that's where I'm literally putting my time and attention into, is that whatever could be cultivated here, even if it's not this per se, but it maybe could be the waves out, the tangents, the influence from these experiences. That's what I think is the goal here, because we talk about anything. We literally talk about anything with love.
The corner needs the corner. The corner needs to do what it does. Exactly right, Parlato. 100%.
Well, Yoav just gave 30 shekels, and maybe I should answer his question. But the fact is, the reason I am here is what I hope is the reason that Jordan Peterson explained 8 years ago, why he was while he was giving that suspenders speech, right? And the suspenders speech, which if you haven't heard it, please go listen to it again. The suspenders speech says it all. If you can't talk about things, then it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And if we can't have the discussion, we are going to end up killing each other.
But how do you talk about things with somebody who doesn't want to talk with you?
If somebody doesn't want to talk, then we're at the point of violence. That is the only solution you have with someone who doesn't want to talk. Is okay. Now we're at violence.
So there's actually some interesting. Sorry, Matt, are you indicating something? Okay, there's some interesting sociology, I think, studies on when two groups can't speak the same language. I'll have to dig it up, but like you basically like leave a gift, and then the other person checks out the space, and you either reciprocate or not. I think for Vicky also may gesture at some of this stuff, but maybe we could take a look at that. The gift giving, the reciprocation that happens in the wilderness. As opposed to the dining room table.
I want to say two things, and then Sherry, if you have something you want to read, I'd love for you to read it, even that your signal's a little bit choppy, looks like. But the thing I want to say is it seemed to. But the thing that I wanted to say is that to Chamomile TV, I'm just gonna. This is a place to think out loud because I felt like a conversation around a lot of things, around spirituality, around religion, around politics, was inside my head, and so to Chamomile TV, people are scared to talk about things, which is why the conversation has to they're on like political being can be talked at, but to meet somebody, we're going to have to meet in somewhere that transcends the political, which is what RJ was referring to. Peterson said this in his conversation with Michael Schallenberger recently, is that invitation has to be the posture. The posture has to be invitation. It cannot be, blocked off to the degree that it can. It has to be an invitation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can tie this back into the.
Go ahead. We're gonna have Sherry read.
Well, I just actually wanted to address what you were talking about there, because I think, like when I think back to my teenage years or my early adolescence, we talked about everything, and nothing was forbidden. There was never this feeling that we can't engage our opinions with our comrades.
That wasn't.
And so
Mark, that wasn't.
Well, I actually, like, I saw Chamomile TV's comment, and I think that's what he's talking about. So, like, it's like people are terrified of talking about things nowadays because somehow there's this, I don't know, the only term that comes to my mind is lukewarm. There's a lukewarmness to the conversation where everybody just kind of floats in front of each other, but nobody actually makes contact. And what I want to say about that is it's been my experience within my marriage, within my family life, with my friends, that sometimes things have to come to an explosive head in dialogue. But the key is everybody has to stay in place. And generally speaking,
there has to be
there's a resolution, and there's a lot of hugging and sometimes some tears, and there's, this is how we figure it out, right? We lose our shit. We talk about stuff. We see things we're sorry for, and then reconciliation can.
What I'm trying to say in this stream is that the political has transcended the relationship in the millennials. The political transcended the relationship. That's where that is everybody here that is in my age bracket and below. You have to understand that the relationship is not more important than the political, and it's terrifying out in the real world for many people. But
I would argue that the reason for that is because they don't talk. They don't talk.
No, that's fine, but that's true because of the smartphone and because of Twitter and because
it's a different kind of talking. It's a different attitude towards talking, because millennials to a large extent view the words that you're not choosing as more important than the ones that you are choosing, in the same kind of move where the group and therefore the political transcends or subsumes the individual.
And I would say
I would have to posit that anybody who places the political above relationship has lost their humanity.
Yep.
Because human beings need relationship. So that, that's what I would say. I mean,
thank God we're not a nation of only millennials. I mean, thank God we're not only a nation of millennials. We have Gen Zs, we have boomers. I have my son, which is really interesting. There has been a change at that 20 to 28, 29-year-old demographic. He started, first off, they don't watch mainstream news and everything else, and they're kind of onto it. But they're a very different group than the millennials. And they seem to be living they aren't caught by the political ideologies, that is kind of captured, like you talk about this, where we can't talk about those things, need safe spaces, the cancel culture, all that crap that we had. And then we have this, they're getting, they're living in this so-called bubble, And so again, we need to figure out how to talk to millennials. But thank God our country isn't just made up of millennials.
That's
and
really
I want to
well,
this millennial in a vacuum thing is perturbing me a little bit. Millennials were raised by another generation, right? We you know, the people are brought
Let's
up into
blame
a
our
confluence of
parents.
no, okay, no, that's not what I'm saying. See, I don't
Okay.
want to do any of the blame game. I feel like
Okay.
I feel like that's kind of where this conversation is kind of going. There is no need for blame. The move is to say, hey, what do we need to do now? And I think it is we need to have these dramatic dialogues and these loving, caring, embodied relational networks. But to sit there and like spin back and point back at, oh, this is what this generation is doing. I find that we can all nitpick whatever generation we want.
I don't even know what half of those. I don't even know who millennials are, to be honest
here's
with
who
you.
millennials are. Let me tell you.
Idea of what boomers
Let me
are.
tell you. Let
No,
me tell
Chris,
you. Let me
CB,
tell you. Let me tell you. We were the ones that in 2012 watched Michael Moore get shot on Facebook when you weren't on Facebook. We were the ones who saw that happen and watched it over and had questions. But we didn't know who to talk to. And then Black Lives Matter took over the culture. And then we really sure as hell weren't going to talk to anybody because now we were all fucking racists. So, and that was where we had to shut up because, so that was what happened to us. That's what happened.
So I just want to jump here and say, towards Matt's point and Sherry's point, we can get caught up in what I refer to as the ha god ya of the generational issue, and we can say, you know, the cat that chased the mouse, and the dog and all that other good stuff. I want to pull it back for a moment, and I posted this in for the comment section that only we can see, but going back to processing the grief, and Jacob, hopefully you can help me do this a little bit. There's a reason why we say the mourner's Kaddish at a lot of the different quorums for prayer, and it's sharing grief and processing grief together. So I don't want to divert the conversation. Hopefully, I'm not.
No, I think that's good, RJ. Like, and sometimes, I mean, one of the first things that happens in grief is denial and anger. Okay. And that's why I say, like, sometimes these things have to come to a head in order, like, you can't reconcile something that hasn't broken, right? In order to be made whole, things need to be broken.
It already broke.
I don't know.
Not enough for some people. I mean, so that's what we think. I've been thinking about a lot about Matthias Desmet, right? And so I do think there's clearly a group of people. And to say that, oh, well, we're all mass formations, yes, and but not really, Matthew, too. I mean, if you read that book, there's very specific movements and things where people get caught up in a certain ideology, right? And he was looking at it really. He was curious to find out, why did Marxism and communism, like, why did this stuff rise? What is this 20th century development, right? And we do have a large group of our population that has been gaslit. Now, the cognitive dissonance for them is because they would have to, their whole world would shatter if all these things that they believe, that's their religion, like, you're pulling that card out from under them. It's going to be very hard for some people. But I think things have gotten so bad, and if people are starting to wake up, they're not trusting their news sources, and then they're realizing, wait a minute, I've been lied about all this stuff. I think more and more people are waking up to the corruption. And so, I think with this moment, and I would say with it, Christian, like, when this happened, my wife immediately just got extremely sad. And she, by the way, she is no person who likes Trump, but she sees what's going on, right? And she will vote for him because she sees what's going on. But her immediate response was just sadness for this country, sadness for the lives we've lost, sad that we were a millimeter away from having a president assassinated. And so, my thing is, I guess why I'm kind of pounding a drum is because there have been some moments here that it should be breaking through to people that have such bad news sources and having gaslit into believing strongly certain things. If we can break through that, like, that's where we heal. And as a country, we can start electing people that are not corrupt, and we basically hold our media accountable, and we start living in some sort of shared reality. Now, I don't want this to be 100% conservative or 100% liberal, but because I think it's best when we have both sides in good, healthy debate and somewhere in the middle. And the political answer isn't going to. We have so many other things for meanings, but I would just say this: there is a moment in time now where we have extremely bad and evil actors, and they need to lose in landslides, and we need to get back control of the voting box and be able to put some people in place, because right now it's completely and utterly broken. There's a reason why Bernie almost won in 2016. The people on the left who were Republicans saw things were broken, and that's why they almost elected Bernie, right? And so almost. Well, if you listen to Donna Brazile, he was, probably should have won that. But
seems like a worlds away now. In my perception, it seems worlds away from
what I would hope people would find honest news sources and break through that. And I think the more people that start doing that, and I would just say this, Christian, and I did go spend some time with my wife, but I was extremely shaken emotionally by this. And I knew as soon as when I found out some woman got up to go to a Trump rally, or we don't know if it's a woman or a man, and got murdered tonight, right? He literally a millimeter away from an assassination, Like, this is big stuff. And like what Eric Weinstein said, he couldn't believe in LA people were walking around like there was no big deals, nothing's happening. We've lost, like, even an assassination attempt doesn't rock us to our core to say, where are we at, people? Like, that's a very scary, scary thing. But I hope more people are awake, and I just hope they find better sources.
Well, this is far from the first assassination attempt, Lance. I mean, it's Reagan. Reagan almost died.
It's not the same.
You've had but see, hold on a second, Jacob. As soon as you start saying, "Wake up, people," agree.
Nope. Hold on. I'm just going to let Afriel go before. I'm going to let Afriel go before. I'm going to let go before.
No. This is actually really important. Let Mark continue to make his point. Like that's actually important to do in this.
When you say "wake up" or "there's going to be violence," you're basically saying, "Agree with me. Agree with my news channels. Agree with my."
Words in my mouth, Mark. I said,
okay, but that's between Jacob and yourself. That's what we're getting. That's the message.
Lance, Jacob left in protest, so I'm going to direct this at you. You have to. I understand that you disagree. I disagree too. You have to be willing to hear him out. And the reason for that, and like this is kind of going to get a little meta, Mark, but I just want to make this point and kind of elaborate on something that RJ said before about when you have two people or two tribes that can't communicate, that there's a gift giving that needs to happen in order to reestablish that, or to establish if it hasn't been established before. The way that you change people's minds is by behaving in ways that they would not expect someone that the way that they understand you. Like, sorry, let me restart that. They have a picture in their mind of what someone like you would behave like, right? You, without necessarily saying, hey, I believe XYZ right out the gate, you show them who you are really as a person. And then when something comes up, you just make sure that you stay truthful to who you are.
I've been doing that for 5 years in the TLC.
And how has it worked?
Great. I've made many, many friends and communicated with people.
There you go.
But I'm just not. I did not call. In fact, I don't think we aren't being violent after all these things that are happening to us. It's the violence that's happening to us, and we're not going to respond in violence.
See, I think the move that April's trying to make, I think, and this is, I mean, I can even, I read a lot of political philosophy book, but I don't even want to do it. But I can go down the political rabbit holes as good as any of you guys. I just want to promise you that.
Matt, did we finish hearing Mark out yet? Because I think Mark even asked a question if we were done hearing someone out, not realizing it was him.
Excuse me.
Just keep going. I'll hold off.
Because
Can I just say something really quickly?
Yeah.
I'm not even an American. I'm a Canadian. So like I have no skin in this game at all, actually. Except for the fact, except for the fact that I would like to see. Well, I would like to see a palpable way to overcome, and like I don't have any answers, but to overcome all the polarity, right? Like, and I think playing around in this arena is great for that, because we can poke each other in the eye and we can step on each other's toes, and I think that there's enough of a spirit here that that's not going to destroy anything. Whereas in other arenas, that could be the end of a marriage. It could be the end of a family. Like I saw that during COVID, for example. But I just wanted to throw this in here. There's a famous Mark Twain quote that I love. If voting I'll say that after. If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. Okay, so Lance and Mark, who I love you both, what do you think of that statement?
Go ahead, Mark.
I think it's typical Twain. Being something of a smart ass and wise at the same time. But it's not necessarily truthful in its entirety. I would say that voting is relevant. It does make a difference. If it didn't, they wouldn't spend so much money getting our votes. So that would be my response to that.
Okay.
And I just think and again, maybe I'm just a Gen X kind of guy, but listen, I'm in a country and I participate in the ecclesia, right? Like I participate. And I think who you vote for does matter. Certain people bring about better times than other people. Mm-hmm. And as it relates to this, I was a very reluctant Trump voter in 2016. I just had to vote against Hillary. But as I've seen these things, I've seen what they have done at every level of government and how they have gaslit the United States over Trump. And people who just don't like the Washington elites, they fear him so much. They fear him for a reason, and they fear him because he's not politically correct like they are. So I do think voting for certain people at certain times, and I think we can see this biblically, like God rises up certain kings and other kings or whatever. Like I actually do think that who we vote for and the policies they have effects on real people, particularly poor people and working class people. And so when we see where our country has gone and the policies they've taken to hollow out the middle class and everything else, here's the deal. Voting didn't matter. There's no way Trump would have been elected if people didn't vote for him. Something happened. The shockwave happened. Voting happened for Brexit. Like a big thing happened, right? You can vote. You need to vote to stop some of these agendas. And so I think voting does matter. Now, I am highly suspect that we have control over our ballot boxes, or that they're going to allow illegal aliens to vote. Look at the vote that happened in Congress this week in the United States and all these other sorts of things. And
but
so
there's no evidence of that, Lance. You have no evidence. That's been vetted again and again and again in courts of law.
Well, all they asked was they had a bill that just said illegal aliens shouldn't be able to vote, and the Democrats voted against that. That 80% of Americans agree that illegal aliens shouldn't vote. So why wouldn't the Democrats vote for it?
The Democrats.
Anyway, I'll be quiet and I'll go. Yeah. I said what I need to say, but I do want to say, so Sherry, in answer to your question, I may be naive, but I go to I vote in my local elections. I vote off presidential stuff elections. I just research candidates and vote. I might be stupid for doing it, but I feel like if we all tried to take that seriously, and if they do count our votes correctly, then the people, I just have trust in like the mass of the American people that if given an opportunity, that they will vote for what is best for most people. So
I live in a country that has a prime minister who's only got 30% of the popular vote and loopholed his way into a coalition with so I don't know.
Hey, and you know what? It spun out a lot of really great minds. So maybe America can spin out some great minds in the decade or so.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we can put Sherry in the true don't section. She's a true don't here.
I would just say I tweeted this. I believe in Now, this is where I'm not a Calvinist. I believe in the goodness of the American people. I believe in the goodness of human beings. I believe at our core, watch when an emergency, I'm in Houston, a hurricane happened. Watch how people come together, Democrat, Republican, all that stuff goes away and people just help. And I do believe that we will be able to get through this. I think we can get through this non-violently at the mass level here. And I believe in that. I believe in the goodness of people. I just think if people can break free from a lot of the gaslighting that's been going on, I think we're not going to agree on like what we should do with taxes or this or that. Of course, healthy debate and who's right, who's wrong, I don't know. But I'm still hopeful. That's where Jacob and I disagree. I don't think we're going to have a violent civil war. If it's going to come from folks that I know that would be considered,
I think that Lance and Mark both agree. They both gave a positive thing about voting because Mark called Mark Twain, cynical or whatever, and Lance believes that that the voting thing. I think there's a lot of young people, and that are pretty nihilistic in our country, that need a non-political conversation, like a way to come, because they are in it. There are some people that are seriously in it, that are young and radical, both sides, and that's where culturally, that a conversational position for them to have disagreements politically, I think contextually is different from a different time, and even from my time.
This is kind of, and I wanted to go all the way back and reiterate what Afriel said about hearing Mark out. But first I want to disabuse a lot of this political talk. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me, because the Democrats didn't vote on that. Do you, Lance? Are you familiar with this Harvard study on the legislative branch reflecting public opinion? Have you heard that? Have you heard that Harvard study?
I haven't read that study.
Okay, yeah, it's completely decoupled. It's completely decoupled. Whatever you're trying to conserve, whatever this tradition, and I don't want to get my emotions, it's Italian in me, but I've been listening to this for 10 minutes now, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. This system is.
Maybe it's time for a poem.
There is no healthy left and right. There's only a radical extreme entity, voice mouthpiece of the regime that is saying you cannot have the conversation. So it's the inverse of kind of this right wing view of they're so far disconnected we can't have a dialogue. Okay, or there's this fantasy that this thing is still going to work and still going to make it right, and it's still chugging along, and we can just dispute about taxes. It's like nothing that the Democratic Republic system, it has been failing for quite some time now, and the despair and the data to back that up is also there. You can also look at the Steven Pinker, progressive, that this thing, but there's also other, and here's where I kind of want to put in TLC is like this notion of like this is supposed to be a super political, in almost all regards. This notion that you're going to be in some mainstream progressive viewpoint and be able to take a lot of the narratives and kind of the concepts that we throw around all the time here, like you're going to be shooken of that mainstream progressive worldview very, very fast if you listen and pay attention earnestly. And then the other idea that this is some kind of like, oh, the system can just work it out. The system's just fine. We just got to get our right people. No. That's why I'm here. Is this system is broke? I'll vote for a king today. I don't care. I want the value system. It's all oligarchy. I'll give you the political. You can smile. I'll give you the political doctrine behind it. It's all oligarchy at the end of the day. It's the iron law of oligarchy.
No, and I don't disagree that we've had certain power structures that have, has it been an illusion that we've actually been elected? Because we are given our opinions, right, and so on and so forth, and so we're so easily swayed. Here's the reality. We have the system we have, And actually, if you really look at any honest polling, if you take Republican or Democrat out of it, and you just tell people these certain ideas, the things, like 65% of the country actually pretty well agrees on most everything. It's actually the titles off of it, or whatever that would be. And again, I might be naive, but I still believe in the goodness of people. And I think at our core in the United States, it's about freedom and goodness of people. And I think that runs deep. And we lost our sacred center. We lost our sacred center. There was a time where a lot of people were going to church together. Like Mark and I are old enough to remember. There were times when Bob Dole and Tip O'Neill would reach across the aisle and compromise and agree on something, right? Like, because they actually had dinner with one another. They went to church with one another. They were friends with one another. And that just can't exist anymore. And so I don't disagree that we're in a very perilous time. And then we got the internet and social media acting on us in humanity. I don't disagree with all that. But all I have to work with for myself is then I do need to try and find some people that will at least take out some of the corruption that's going on and get us, at least if we can't start living in some semblance of a shared set of facts, we have no chance.
I don't know if we can. It's hard. I mean, because it's going to be hard. But I want to put a period on the conversation. If Sherry, if you have something prepared to read, because I think it could be a good reset.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Okay, so talking about a shared, what did you call it? A shared what? Oh, there's a shared something, a shared vision or whatever.
Here it is. Here's the shared vision. Love you guys.
Okay, bye, Lance. Here's the shared vision. And I just read these for the first time today because I'm doing that Michael Martin course on romanticism. So, I'm all romantic. Innocence by Traherne, Thomas Traherne. But that which most I wonder at, which most I did esteem my bliss, which most I boast, and never shall enjoy, is that within. I felt no stain, nor spot of sin. No darkness then did overshade, but all within was pure and bright. No guilt did crush, nor fear invade, but all my soul was full of light. A joyful sense and purity is all I can remember. The very night to me was bright. 'Twas summer in December. A serious meditation did employ my soul within, which taken up with joy, did seem no outward thing to note, but flee all objects that do feed the eye. While it those very objects did admire and prize, and praise and love, which in their glory most are hid, which presence only doth remove, their constant daily presence I, rejoicing at, did see, and that which takes them from the eye of others offered them to me. No inward inclination did I feel to avarice or pride. My soul did kneel in admiration all the day. No lust nor strife polluted then my infant life. No fraud, no anger in me moved, no malice, jealousy, or spite. All that I saw, I truly loved. Contentment only and delight were in my soul, O heaven, what bliss did I enjoy and feel? What powerful delight did this inspire? For this I daily kneel. Whether it be that nature is so pure and custom only vicious, or that sure God did by miracle the guilt remove and make my soul to feel his love. So early, or that 'twas one day, wherein this happiness I found, whose strength and brightness do so ray, that still it seems to surround. Whate'er it is a light, so endless unto me, that I a world of true delight did then and to this day do see. That prospect was the gate of heaven. That day the ancient light of Eden did convey. Into my soul I was an Adam there. a little atom in a sphere. O joys, oh there my ravished sense was entertained in paradise and had a sight of innocence, all was beyond all bound and price. An antepast of heaven sure, I on the earth did reign. Within, without me, all was pure. I must become a child again.
Thank you. It's good to breathe.
And I just wanted to read one little thing here. So I had to think of Terrence Howard when I was reading this, because Terrence Howard claims that he remembers being in the womb, right? Well, so does Thomas Traherne, which really surprised me. I'll just read these. They're just two short paragraphs. Will you see the infancy of this sublime and celestial greatness? Those pure and virgin apprehensions I had from the womb, and that divine light wherewith I was born, are the best unto this day, wherein I can see the universe. By the gift of God, they attended me into the world, and by his special favor, I remember them till now. Verily, they seem the greatest gifts his wisdom could bestow, for without them all other gifts had been dead and vain. They are unattainable by book, and therefore I will teach them by experience. Pray for them earnestly, for they will make you angelical and holy, celestial. Certainly Adam in paradise had not more sweet and curious apprehensions of the world than when I was a child. All appeared new and strange at the first, inexpressibly rare and delightful and beautiful. I was a little stranger, which at my entrance into the world was saluted and surrounded with innumerable joys. My knowledge was divine. I knew by intuition those things which since my apostasy I collected again by the highest reason. My very ignorance was advantageous. I seemed as one brought into the estate of innocence. All things were spotless and pure and glorious, yea, and infinitely mine, and joyful and precious. I knew not that there were any sins or complaints or laws. I dreamed not of poverty, contention, or vice. All tears and quarrels were hidden from my eyes. Everything was at rest, free and immortal. I knew nothing of sickness or death or exaction. In the absence of these, I was entertained like an angel with the works of God in their splendor and glory. I saw all the peace of Eden. Heaven and earth did sing my Creator's praises, and could not make more melody to Adam than to me. All time was eternity, and a perpetual Sabbath. Is it not strange that an infant should be heir of the world and see those mysteries which the books of the learned never unfold?
Thanks.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys see how that's related, but I do.
What do you got, Afriel?
Well, for Sherry's thing, the be like little children. That's a big, yeah.
Well, what is that other verse? A little child shall lead them. Right? You're talking about politics, leadership.
Yeah.
This is not easy. This is actually hard. To be like a child.
And then Lance left, but I did want to touch on something that he mentioned of, like, I don't think that it's not a problem of common facts. I don't think it is, at least. I think it's a problem of common motivations, or uncommon, or
values.
Yeah. And I think that that's
you have to value the information to determine its factuality.
And I guess that's where, like, when Mark's talking about like the court of law and what's proved is, like,
really, to me, what that juxtaposition comes to is the belief in the how strong or true the institutions, C-Man, remain, and that's I think that's probably whatever that tipping point is what is the faith in institution, and how long that. I think that's kind of part of the divide is around institution ultimately.
I'm going to go now, but Jeremy says facts are a myth. And Luke Thompson, to quote the great sage, says things like, all knowing is personal.
Yeah, we hit on that earlier with the Luke-isms.
All right, guys.
Thanks, I'll probably
Thanks,
jump too.
Sherry, before
Thanks
you
for
go, I
having us,
just want to say thank you so much for the selection. If you want to stick around, I had a thought on it for just a moment.
Okay, I can stick around for that.
Yeah, earlier there was I guess a statement by On God in the comments saying that where I was bringing up grieving together as
Right.
almost and his words were almost a non sequitur. To which I replied, almost. And to piggyback off and tack on to some of the imagery you selected, and tie those two things together. Whether it's extending a seat at the table or a gift in the wilderness, or the embrace to the wounded child. And on the point of children, I'll say the worst thing that's ever happened to them is the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to bring Mark into the conversation, I think there's some stuff that Ram Dass and his cadre and friends and his part of the sphere can be brought into the conversation here. But Sherry, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on just how to help someone grieve for the first time.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that the very first response to grief is anger. And we have to quit misinterpreting that as actual anger. It's a person suffering a loss, and they're angry because when something is taken from us, we become angry, right? And so I would just encourage everybody to, when they hear angry and those angry words, I would encourage them to be extra compassionate towards that person, because people do not respond in anger just because, I mean, maybe in the chat, but not in a conversation. In a face-to-face conversation, people are very withheld when it comes to anger. And anger only comes out when people are so lost or have suffered such a great loss that they can no longer contain it, right? And so that is often the time when they need the biggest hug. And they really need, and we need to listen. We need to listen to everything that everyone says. And like you said, their worst experience is, how did you put that? Is their experience.
Their worst experience is their worst experience.
Is their worst experience, right? So because all knowing is personal, everything that Mark is saying is true. Everything that Lance is saying is true. They're all true. And we have to say yes to that. It's true. It's okay if we say it's true. This should never be about someone being right and another person being wrong. And then just to close it off, I would also say, stop using the term we when you're talking about politics.
Thank you, Sherry. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too.
Mark, is there anything else you want to say before I roll this thing down?
Yeah. I just, I think, my moment of frustration is when I'm told that I need to wake up and agree with your facts. Wake up and agree with your interpretation of the events. That's naturally going to push my buttons, because I don't necessarily. and it pushes my buttons when the Democrats do it. I push my buttons when anybody does it. I want to interpret. I have my worldview, and I interpret the so-called facts as I see them, in my own. I don't need help. And I don't like it, particularly when it's backed up with an implicit threat. And that's where I felt I got provoked in this conversation at that point. If you can understand, I think, like what Sherry said, I respect your interpretation. If you have enough respect to at least allow me to have my own. I need you to agree with me. And I'm not going to take it's there. I'm not suggesting there'll be any consequences to you not agreeing with me. But I do think this is probably a blip. It's not as dramatic a situation as you think. And former President Trump is alive and relatively well. And I don't think whoever wants him dead is not going to get a second try. So he's going to make it to the election, and we will see what happens in the election. I think trust in the system.
I think that, like you said, it's whenever you like the I'm right, you're wrong, like starting at that point, like, and figuring out, well, how do you have a discussion about like a different perspective about things that have happened, like, and that you have to be able, I do think that it's being able to start somewhere more personal than, and part of the whole thing on here is from my perspective and my age and whatever you want to say about it is, because like when Sherry's talking about being younger and not feeling this way, a lot of it is because of social media. And I think you can look at left and right or whatever politics you want to look at. Social media affected a generation, and it did start with the millennials because we were the first ones on it.
There's hard sociology on this.
So that's all I just want to say about that.
I'd point to Jonathan Haidt's work.
For sure. But then the other piece about what you're saying, Mark, is I guess what I would say is I don't want to downplay, like, I don't know if this is what you meant when you said today's a blip. But like somebody was killed an American was killed in a political assassination attempt today.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what you. I don't know if. Or
no,
if
I don't mean to. I'm not dismissing the loss of life. I'm simply saying, historically speaking, it's going to probably be far less significant than everyone in the conversation.
Well, what does it mean? Well, what does it mean today?
What does anything? I mean, it's like going on an emotional bender, Christian. People just, you get yourself all wound up, and then you wake up in the morning with a bit of a headache, and you think more clearly tomorrow, and the next day after that, and over the next few weeks, we'll get better perspective on it. We'll learn more about who's behind it. Maybe the Democrats will stop bullshitting us about Biden's situation. Maybe we'll come through this better than we started. Historically, that's often how things happen. This could be a catalyst. I don't think it's a catalyst for violence. If anything, it may be a catalyst for reform.
Mark, I think in part how that shakes out depends on every single one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the conversation tonight holds weight.
Yeah. I definitely am not going to participate in generating a lot of negative feelings, and I'm certainly not going to acquiesce to what feels to me like implicit threats. So I mean, I'm going to continue being me. I'm going to continue to try to be as honest and loving as I possibly can, because I think this is a good space. I think this community does need to be supported and encouraged. This may turn out to be a test to it. I don't know how many people. I mean, I've never had Jacob just leave a communication with me like that. So that was interesting. I don't know what that's going to mean, but it's a shame PVK is still in Italy. We can use him.
No, I don't think so. I think that's
all by design.
Well, not by design, but I think that's part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Does the thing exist without him in a way?
Sure.
That's what I mean by that. Not that I wish that he wasn't here to talk about these things. That's not what I'm saying either.
No, I understand. I know. Yeah. I understand. I just no. The situation is not normal. I get that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, in the broad scope of American history, it's still probably more stable than we have been throughout most of our period of time as a republic. Because we've gone from, there was look it up. There was the businessman's coup in 1933 to try to overthrow FDR, and some of the richest men in the country were behind it. It failed and was ultimately swept under the rug by the Senate in an investigation because they didn't want to they didn't want to cause a revolution in the country that would have upset the economy even more than it had been.
All I want to say about that is that like digital media didn't exist at that point, and sweeping things under the rug in certain ways is more difficult today.
It would be counterproductive. Now transparency is what we need. So yeah, RJ.
If I could just jump in, I think historical context is really important. And I think also in the same vein, to Seabax's point, we have new context. And we don't know what that means because in part it hasn't played out, but that doesn't mean that certain things don't have fundamental functions to them.
We haven't seen anything like 1968. I mean, let's just be honest. This is nothing like 1968.
The Goldwater moment was the Goldwater moment onto itself. There's utility in comparison, but there's a trap in it as well. But
1968, you had.
I think if I can understand what you're saying specifically,
yeah,
is that there have been more contentious moments. There have been higher tension and more fraying of the fabric, and we can look at those moments to see how things were brought back together.
Yeah, I do. I can't speak to that time. I think that culturally, I think it on some level that there would be a metric that would say that our country is less coherent than it was because of a lot of different things, culturally, religious, politically, where the center is not as strong or not as coalesced. So,
but this is a failed assassination attempt, right? I mean, everyone's acting like. I mean, that's what I find a little bit strange.
Martin, what would be substantially different if the guy's hand had been pointed a few inches to the right or left? The failure of the attempt. I'm not sure if how is that holding weight for you here, specifically that
it makes all the difference in the world because
I see that point. That like we're not in a world where Trump actually got killed to put the name to it. But if I'm misunderstanding a part of the approach that you were starting to take, I think that might have been occurring. But again, what is it that you're gesturing at by saying that the current state of things is the current state of things?
Did I say explicitly the current state of things? I said the current, as I said, the situation is not normal. I don't. What did I say? The current. What do you mean? I'm not sure.
I'm saying you're pointing out that the current situation is not normal. I'm saying I'm noticing that it seems you're gesturing to more than just that. I'm asking what is the other part of that beyond that it's not normal. Beyond that, like something happened. Like, is it what do we do with it now?
Okay. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it's how Christian. I mean, that's the one thing we're pretty predominantly in this corner are Christians and have an expectation of what is virtuous behavior for a Christian. So that would, for starters, I would say Christians need to double down and embody Christ in their lives rather than participate in the fractious
What is that specifically?
pathology of the moment.
Like, what's a concrete example?
It
of
could
that?
a concrete
Jerry
example may be
mentioned,
non-participation.
giving a hug.
How about non-participation in the violence, verbal and physical? I'm just not going to play. I'm not going to play along. I won't do what I will not cooperate. I'm not going to cooperate with your propaganda, left or right. I'm not going to cooperate in the othering process of left or right. Whether it's the Buddhist middle way or it's Christ's way, I'm going to love my neighbor as myself. I'm not going to waver. That is the narrow path. And I will take the blows I take. I will take the shit in the chat. I will take the crap on the street. But I will continue to ring my bell for Christ, walk the narrow path, love my neighbor, and fuck all if anybody hates me for that. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay. We can live with that. But it's not like I have to. This is what I find very frustrating. Donald Trump was almost assassinated. Hold on a second. One sentence. Donald Trump was almost assassinated. The threat is if I don't cooperate. Now suddenly we need to rally around Trump. In spite of however else I feel, I'm supposed to rally around Trump to save the republic from the ensuing collapse of disorder and civil war, what have you. I can't cooperate with that either. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And that's love my neighbor as myself. Go on, Ralph. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Mark. Yo, what's up?
Hi. Looking from the outside and looking at the situation for many years, this was not unpredictable. In fact, I'm personally surprised that Trump has survived those last 4 years. I would refer you to Dan Carlin and his excellent history podcast. And he has, I think, a 3 podcast series about the fall of the Roman Republic. That is much before the fall of the empire. First there was the Republic, and the Republic fell and turned into the empire. And there is a certain mechanism by which the democracy falls. And I see the same mechanism unfolding over years in the US, as if scripted, as if predicted by Dan Carlin many, many years ago. And okay, so you say, well, it will not happen again because now the security will be better. Think about the next Trump. Think about the Trump 8 years ago, 8 years in the future. He will already be immune from lawfare from the get-go. He will have all his businesses in a safe state. He will have all his business conducted by some other people. He will already have an army going out, a small army going out. Wherever he goes, there will be a small army of security around him. And it won't succeed because he will be assassinated, got rid of by one way or another. Think of the Trump of 16 years from now. He will have a larger army. And the end of the road, Julius Caesar is waiting for you. There's nothing I can do to stop it. But
Thanks, Yov.
Well, that's
if I could jump
often
in,
a
actually.
fear. That's often a fear of educated people that America is going to go the way of the Roman Republic.
I'm going to let RJ respond.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk and projection of Caesar onto Trump. I'm not so sure. From my own perspective, I wonder if we're farther back in that process, actually. Trump strikes me a lot like the Grocki brothers in the sense of he's like their father or their uncle. For the history buffs out there, you'll get what I'm saying. Trump was brought up in the elite, but not accepted. And that has played out for all of us to watch. And I only bring that up to say, if we are indeed farther back, then that presents us a little bit of a runway to change the trajectory. The more that we call him Caesar, the more people will see him as Caesar, the more that the Caesar story is likely to play out, perhaps. That's not to recontextualize the comment I made earlier saying that, or any of the comments I've made earlier.
Well, just to clarify, of course, Trump is not Caesar and is not anywhere like Caesar. But the Trumps that are going to come after him increasingly will look more and more like Caesar until somebody will come that is as talented as Caesar.
And I think that points to certain, as Thomas Sowell might put it, incentives that are built into the dynamics. As I'll point to the Churchill quote of democracy is the best form of government we have. Sorry, it's the worst form of government we have, except for all the others. So there's a certain level of there very rarely are there answers or solutions. Very often there are only trade-offs. But that again points me back in my thinking to where we are in the landscape, and first identifying where we are, which is important. We can only do that by understanding where we've been to a certain degree. It's important not to project, but it's equally important to be informed.
Deb, what do you got? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Do I sound okay? Okay. Yeah, I don't know that I have too much. I just wanted to be part of something, talk to someone, process. Yeah, just acknowledge what just happened. I felt like I was kind of going crazy walking around the streets of my town and wanted to shout about it or talk to people in the street about it. Just felt like something that should be remarked upon. As to, like, the fate of our country and where we're at and our government, there's just a lot of unknowns. We don't really know how this is going to play out. I think governments have a lifespan. They don't last forever. And our system of government is starting to show its age and has certain trouble. But I don't know that it will end or significantly change in my lifetime. I think it's only as possible to things have been, we have a lot of stability in the American system, and it'll take something big for it to change, I think, from what it is now. So I think it's possible to overstate the importance of where you are at a particular period of time. Yeah, I get really excited about this kind of stuff. I get my blood up. I want to, I don't know, fight liberals in the street or something, but that's not how the world works. It's like, it's very counterproductive, any sort of anger or battle emotions, but seeing Trump bleed on stage, it definitely gets the blood going. But that's just me.
Well, I'm glad that you like have a chance to just even say how you feel, even if people don't relate to it. I don't think Mark relates to it, but
No, I relate to it very much. I felt that very much.
yeah,
I'm very
respond, man.
sympathetic to that feeling.
Yeah.
And I didn't. It made me sick too, my stomach, to see blood to see Trump's blood. Period.
It's like I've been. I think I commented in the comments that like since 9/11, I've had this feeling like things haven't been okay, and I've watched things decline, and like just there be one crisis after another that seems to make the American way of life worse. Like I think the response to 9/11 made it the American way of life worse. The rise of the security state, the 2 wars that we launched in Iraq and Afghanistan, that was very much part of my young adulthood, and seeing the vast expense of that, and then going to the Obama candidacy, and it started in hope, but in the second campaign really was the start of our racial reckoning and this growth of people not trusting each other, and sort of the fracturing of our identity as Americans, and the seeds of Black Lives Matter, and the start of those riots, and then like Trump, I like kind of agreed with him more than I agreed with Hillary, but he also, he pushed a lot of buttons, and started the country to become more polarized, and people to be at each other's throats more. And he really was a bit of an accelerant. I just didn't know that we needed an accelerant. Like I'm like, okay, I like you better than the other guy, but I wish you wouldn't push all the buttons and like try to take this down the make things accelerate conflict. And then he wasn't very competent at the reform that I hoped he would do. And then 2020 with COVID, the growth of a lot of government powers, and that the economic dislocation of the lockdowns, and the giant spending bills, and seeing inflation for the first time in my life. I'm 40 years old, and there's never been inflation in my life. That coming back, and political instability in the larger world. It's just been one thing after another. And the 2020 riots were like very, very really affected me. Like just stewing in my house as a fighter, like just someone that wants to fight. I'm like you guys are evil, and why is the media egging this on? Like I just want to slug somebody, but I don't know. When the world's mad, you can't slug everyone that's wrong, right? And it's I don't know. I've kind of been stewing in some sorts of feeling that of like this growing darkness for 23 years. And I like the point you made, Mark, that studying older American history helps, like knowing that we were also crazy in the 60s. We also had race riots and cities lit on fire in the 60s, that we had a president assassinated in the 60s. It lets us know that we're not alone. Really, my expectation of normalcy comes from the 80s and 90s, and like that was actually like this little island of temporary peace that
that was the blip. That was the abnormal period.
And so that would make why millennials were so shell shocked by intense culture. I'm 30,
and that's why I need to find out something better to do, to navigate tempest and violence and change. I need to find something better to do than feel like being someone in the face, because that's the only way. That's like how I emotionally react to all of this stuff. And but there's no person to slug in the face to fix things. It's like Satan,
can I ask you,
or fallen nature. That's it.
Can I ask you, Jacob, what's your spiritual background? I don't think we've ever met before.
I like currently or over time.
What are you now? What influences you most now?
I'm an Orthodox Christian. I've been for about 5 years.
Okay.
And it's also new to Christianity for me, so I've been trying to be a Christian for the last 5 years.
Okay. So that's where you, in my opinion, that's the best place to be.
Well, the thing
You
is,
know?
like, we're talking about like the fall of Roman Empire and stuff, and like the Christians lived through a lot of political turmoil. Like Rome went through a lot of political turmoil during the time of that. The Jews were there, and then the Christians came out of Judaism, and like the church survived. Rome died. And I think, like, where do you keep your identity? Like, what's important to you? Like, America's going to die someday. Hope the church will survive. The people of God will continue. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to be a non-combatant, I suppose.
Well, we've already been through several forms of the Republic. Keep in mind, you had the Articles of Confederation. That was the first Republic. Then there was the Second Republic, which is the current Constitution. That's the 1789 Constitution. Then you had arguably the reforms under Jackson. That was a reformation of the Republic. Then you had a new formation of the Republic through the Civil War, right? Lincoln recreated the Republic after it fell apart in Civil War. Then things went along pretty well for a while until the Great Depression, and you really had a completely revised Republic then. The country completely changed, and we had the beginnings of the welfare state. Then Johnson comes along, and Vietnam, and you have another form of the Republic that it's not as dramatically changed as that which followed the Great Depression, but still significantly changed. And those reforms have led, because it's only since 1965 have we been a full democracy where everybody, men, women, and every person of every race in America has had the vote as adults, have had the vote. So that's the first time we were a full democracy. So we've seen many iterations already. My guess is the current iteration, whether maybe this is it. Maybe we're going into a whole new Reformation phase, but we're still, and yet there is a continuity.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that could cause a crisis or a change coming up. And we are getting close. I don't know if any of those things will actually push us over, but yeah, and I agree. I think we've changed a lot in the past, and we will continue to. Yeah, I'm starting a family. I got married not too long ago, and hoping to have children. And I don't know, a lot of this stuff is just like very visceral now. I'm like, well, it's hard to be passive about it. It's hard to not have emotions about it. Like, I do feel like it is partially, at least in a small way, like my responsibility to participate in our system of governments. That's part of what I've been taught as an American. And I care about the way our country goes, and I'm concerned about it. And it's not just about me, but also about, it's not hypothetical future family now. And I don't know. I suppose it's no different than what people have gone through in every generation past, except for the fact that because we're a democracy, I feel like I am supposed to do something about it.
But you'd have to do something. You have to know what to do, right? And if you don't know what to do, then what do you?
I'm gonna have to zero us in because Mark. I don't want to cut you off, but
No,
my wife's been gracious. She's been hanging out with me almost this whole stream, so she's over here with some headphones on, and but it's we've got other responsibilities for the evening, so I don't mean to cut y'all short. But Jacob, I'm glad you got here.
Jacob, good to talk to you.
It's good to meet you guys. Good to talk to you. And just to be clear, when I'm talking about like all my combative emotions, it's not something that I actualize. It's how I feel.
Yeah. Well, and last thought, don't let those feelings become self-destructive, and don't let them be destructive in general. I mean, just try to I feel your I feel your pain. I feel though I feel your emotions and your struggle, and I do respect that. So
All right.
God bless you.
Good to see you guys, and yeah, God bless us all, and
Yeah.
our country, and you guys.
Yep.
Hey,
Thank you,
Jacob,
Christian.
it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you guys.
Good to see you guys.
Me and Jacob had a full-on podcast a couple months ago. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, good to see you again too.
Have a good night. All right.
Peace, guys.
I'm knocking you guys out here, and so my wife sent me something early in this conversation that said maybe you could read this, and I'm going to honor that. For those of y'all who are still sticking around, this is called from a book. I believe it's Every Moment Holy, and it says this: in a world so wired and interconnected, our anxious hearts are pummeled by an endless barrage of troubling news. We are daily aware of more grief, O Lord, than we can rightly consider, of more suffering and scandal than we can respond to, of more hostility, hatred, horror, and injustice than we can engage with compassion. But you, O Jesus, are not disquieted by such news of cruelty and terror and war. You are neither anxious nor overwhelmed. You carry the weight of the suffering of a broken world when you hung upon the cross, and you carry it still. With the cacophony of universal distress, unsettles us. Remind us that we are but small and finite creatures, never designed to carry the vast abstractions of great burdens. For our arms are too short and our strength is too small. Justice and mercy, healing and redemption are your great labors. And yes, it is your good pleasure to accomplish such works through your people. You've never asked any of us to undertake more than your grace will enable us to fulfill. Guard us then from shutting down our empathy or walling off our hearts because of the glut of unactionable misery that floods our awareness. You have many children in many places around this globe. Move each of our hearts to compassionately respond to those needs that intersect our actual lives. And in all places, your body might be actively addressing the pain and brokenness of this world. Each of us is liberated and empowered by your Spirit to fulfill the small part of your redemptive work assigned to us. Give us discernment in the face of troubling news reports. Give us discernment to know when to pray, when to speak, when to act, and when to simply shut off our screens and our devices and sit quietly in your presence, casting the burdens of this world upon the strong shoulders of the one who alone is able to bear them up. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. I hope you guys have a safe night and get some rest. And this was a act of vulnerability for me to get on here and have this conversation. And I appreciate everyone who was involved. And I'm sorry, I think I got a little defensive on the millennial front, Lance. And if you're out there, you catch this later, my apologies. And to everyone who's tuned in, watching, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was helpful. Yeah, helpful and hopeful, ultimately. And that to the state of things. So thanks for hanging around this little corner of the internet. And yeah, let's end with this.